Okay, let's talk about free agency that's coming up in a couple of days, potential rumors, just a bunch of stuff. This is probably going to end up being me rambling and all that. I do want to talk about Dame for just a little bit. So Dame and the Blazers had a meeting today where it seems like the conclusion basically was obviously he did not ask for a trade and he wants to see what they do in free agency and all that stuff. And look, if I can attempt to read between the lines, I don't think it would take a crazy offseason for Dame to be like, all right, cool, I want to stay. And so as far as what that looks like, I don't know. I will say this, just from looking at the Blazers' salary situation, they don't have an obvious salary filler contract. Like all of their real money is locked up in guys who either you're not going to trade or it's like Nurkic, who has a decent amount of time left on the deal. So for what that's worth, I don't know. I mean, sure, if you want to start getting crazy, then you can imagine whatever Anthony Simons trade you want in your head. But that dude's good, man. He's one of the best pull-up three-point shooters in the league. I just don't feel like the Blazers would move him for the sake of like, well, we got to do this or else Dame's out. It just doesn't seem like it's going to end up like that. But what do I know? I'm always on the side of the crazy thing is not going to happen. Besides that, yeah, I think they're going to bring Jeremy Grant back. So anyway, let's go to James Harden. Right on cue, I think he's going back to Philly. And I know Sixers fans were mad at him after the loss to the Celtics and all that because of that last game he had, but he's pretty much their best shot, man. If he goes to Houston, the Sixers don't have a real pathway to replace what Harden gives them. Now, as far as the contract stuff, look, I get it. He's 33 years old. We'd have to see what the length of it is and all that stuff. And I guess we just have to see how real this Houston stuff is. And, I mean, would the Rockets just want him no matter what they just did in the draft, getting Amen and all that? Like, I don't know. Again, I think he's going to come back to Philly. I do want to take a little bit on the Nick Nurse Philly stuff because I haven't talked about it yet. The most interesting thing about Nick Nurse to Philly, for me, is Nick Nurse could just kind of kick him in the ass, to put it bluntly. And not in the sense of like yelling at them or whatever, but more so in the sense of changing up what they're doing on the court. Because, you know, Nick Nurse, like, he had the Raptors attacking the offensive glass. He had them playing a more aggressive defense at times, whether it was in the full court or, you know, putting two to the ball or sometimes busting out like a random zone, just getting weird. Now, granted, when he got Pirtle, they shifted to a little more of a safer defense, so take that for what you will. But I do think that's kind of in there with Nick Nurse. The other thing is if he can just bring a little extra juice to the Sixers offense, where it's like, yeah, the Harden and Embiid pick and roll is super effective. It's also like, if that's the thing you're falling back on all the time, then I do think teams can game plan for it, which is what happened in the Celtics series when they put Rob back in the game and stuff, letting him be the help guy and all that. And so whether that's like more random handoff actions with Maxey or whatever you can realistically get from James Harden as an off-ball player, which might just be like one simple action out of the corner, just anything to sort of juice up the offense at times. You know, can you get these perimeter players to set screens for each other as Joel is in the post, which could potentially create like cuts for somebody? Just, we'll see what Nick Nurse does there, but I'm excited for it. Let's go to Kyrie with the Mavs. So the most that the Mavs can give Kyrie is 5 years, $272 million. And, well, I am not a Mavericks fan, and that number still has me queasy. I mean, the scary thing if you're Dallas is if Kyrie just says, give me the max or I'm out. Now, as far as what out would mean, given the current free agent market, I don't know. I mean, I know people like to imagine Kyrie on the Lakers, but like pretty much every Pelinka quote from this offseason suggests that the Lakers mostly just want to bring back their team, which I think is totally fine. So we'll see. If I had to make a prediction on Kyrie, I think he's going to re-sign with Dallas. Don't ask me what the contract's going to look like because I do not know. Now, whether that's a good thing for Dallas, given how it looked with Kyrie and Luka, look, I think they're really desperate for a rim-protecting center who can also still do stuff on offense. They're hoping Derek Lively can be that guy right away. We'll see. Look, you can go through just a list of things that Cuban's messed up, and number one's probably the whole Brunson situation, but this is where they're at right now. As Luka enters year 6, and time goes by fast, man. For what it's worth, if Kyrie was not on their books, then they would have a decent amount of cap space. It's just like, we see teams get burned all the time on the cap space thing. It's probably going to happen this offseason to somebody as well. Now let's go to Fred VanVleet, who, look, you want to look up the rumors for him? I've seen Houston. I've seen a little bit of the Raptors possibly keeping him. I've seen others say they doubt he's coming back to the Raptors. If the rumors are true, then I think Houston will offer him the most money, although depending on what else might happen with them, that affects things, obviously. Because they can just say, we got to pay somebody, and our whole team is basically on rookie contracts. Although even then, I don't think that would be like a massively long contract. If it was any other team, then I think it becomes more of a nickel and dime thing where Fred's probably not really getting the amount of money that he would like to get. Granted, everybody would like to get a max, but you know what I mean. As for the Raptors, I will say this. If this whole, whatever this has been for the last few months, will they trade Fred, won't they, becomes Fred signs with somebody else and it's not a sign and trade or whatever for the Raptors, that'd be a little disappointing. So take that for what you will. And look, I know that Fred's like overall efficiency was not great this past season, and a lot of that's because of his 2-pointers, rim stuff. I get it. I also feel like the Raptors are asking him to do a lot on offense. Let's go to Chris Middleton with the Bucks. He declined his $40 million player option. I'm assuming that he and the Bucks have already got something lined up where he's just going to be on a multi-year deal, which will pay him less right now, but he's got more guaranteed years as a result. That would be my assumption. Okay, the next free agent I want to talk about is Vooch. Do Bulls fans want Vooch back? I feel like I've seen enough Bulls fans basically say that they want just a major shakeup, some sort of a trade somebody for a bunch of picks type of trade. Like, I don't know if Bulls fans want a complete teardown, but I don't think they want a run it back scenario. As far as whether the Bulls will cooperate with that, I have no idea. Of course, losing Vooch for nothing would suck. I think at the same time, you can't give him some huge contract, so take that for what you will. Let's get to Brook Lopez, who has become the penciled-in savior for many fan bases if you want to search Twitter, Reddit, whatever else. And it makes sense. When you can provide really good rim protection, you can shoot, and also the Bucks have given him the ball a little bit more in low post opportunities, finding him more on rolls and all that, where he still got it in him to finish around the basket and has all the great touch and all that. Like, you're not going to expect a scoring game from him like that all the time now, but he still got a bit of that. So there's been some Houston talk. I've seen some people bring up the idea of San Antonio. The idea here is rim protection, him and Wemby, all that stuff. I've seen a little bit floated out there of could the Kings want him because the Kings created a bunch of cap space, and would they want the rim protection, and do you want him and Sabonis next to each other? I mean, I feel like the Bucks still have the most reason to want the guy because if they don't have him, they don't have a pathway to replace what he does. I've also seen Laker fans get themselves pretty hyped up about the idea of Brook, and they'd have to decline Beasley's contract. I think you'd have to also rescind Mo Bamba, and then I think you'd have like the mid-level available, but I feel like Brook's going to go for more than $12 million annually. Maybe I'm wrong there. Speaking of the Lakers, as I've mentioned them a few times now, look, they're going to match any offer that Reeves gets, and if a team does offer Reeves a contract, then it messes up that team's cap situation until the Lakers match, so I don't know if anybody's going to bother with that. If they end up matching, then it gets weird where like his first 2 years will be like $12 million, the last years will be like over $30 million per season. That's not an exaggeration, assuming that a team would offer him the most they can offer him. So we'll see there. I mean, look, he's 24 years old. He was dropping 20-point games in the playoffs. He can handle pick and rolls. He can take some ball handling pressure off of LeBron, and also him and LeBron have a nice little two-man game with either one of them screening for each other. I think you hold on to him if you're the Lakers. They're going to bring back Rui most likely, and I think D'Lo is going to end up re-signing there as well. Don't know what the money's going to be, but yeah, that just seems to be the temperature around the Lakers. Now let's get to Kuzma. So there was a random odds thing that had like the Mavericks and the Cavs as a Kuzma team, but now there seems to be a lot of Kings noise. I kind of mess with that Kings fit because, he's younger and bigger than Harrison Barnes. And I do remember Kuzma, was it the bubble where he was really good defensively for the Lakers? I think that's what it was. And if he does end up on Sacramento, I will say it would give them a nice contrast in the sense of like Kuzma can attack the basket better than a lot of their guys, right? Not as good as Fox, obviously, but Kuzma, like he's made so much progress with his catch and drive, transition, straight line drive game, especially because he's big and he can be physical around the basket and stuff. Sure, his catch and shoot stuff has never been like amazing. I think he was about 34% on catch and shoots last season. Like, it's cool. It's good enough. And of course, the Kings made a bunch of cap space for themselves recently with the Rashawn Holmes trade. So we'll see there. There is one more I wanted to get to. There does seem to be the Pistons are going to offer Cam Johnson a whole lot of money noise. That came from Mark Stein as well as James Edwards from The Athletic. And for the Pistons, it makes sense because their team is almost entirely full of rookie contracts, so they have money to throw at somebody, and they need shooting, and Cam can obviously shoot. He and Bogdanovich would be by far the two best shooters on that team. And I know they just drafted a Sar, but even so, I don't feel like there'd be a logjam at the wing spots or anything. As far as how the Nets would feel about that, don't know, man. The Nets are in kind of this spot where like there's been a little bit of like, would they trade for Dame stuff, which I kind of feel like they wouldn't. I feel like they just want to hold on to those Suns picks that they got, and I kind of feel like they want to re-sign Cam as well. But perhaps there's a number, I don't know.